Very good afternoon, and thanks for clicking on to the Friday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. Had a couple of days off the videos, spent a couple of days down on the Algarve coast of Portugal with my fiance to celebrate her birthday. So I'm back in the seat once again for today's video, and it looks as if, certainly over the last couple of days, there hasn't been a great deal of change taking place. We've generally been dry, sunny, and of course conditions worsening when it comes to rivers and reservoirs drying up across parts of Europe, across parts of England as well, where an official drought, I believe, has been declared in several counties in parts of England. Wigan Holt in West Sussex looks as if it was the hottest spot of the UK yesterday at 34.2 Celsius. I believe there is 34 degrees this afternoon as well. So you can see here, these are the temperatures from yesterday. Almost, I believe there may have been a 30 actually recorded in parts of eastern Scotland during yesterday. Stark contrast to the northwest where we had cloud and even some rain. We had only 18.4 at Loch Liscarnock. Stark contrast to the 29.7 at Dyce Airport, just on the outskirts of Aberdeen. But of course, down across the north and central and southern portions of England, temperatures either upper 20s, if not low 30s. Of course, like I say, the drought conditions have been worsening in recent times. Odium now in excess of 40 days without any rainfall. And it looks as if we are going to start to see some changes taking place in the upper pattern as we go through the course of the weekend and into early next week. We're going to replace high pressure, believe it or not, with low pressure. However, it's not as clear cut that drought's over, hose pipe ban's over, and whatnot. We're seeing some lakes in England completely dry. I can't remember for the life of me, but I was watching a video there, and there was this lake in Yorkshire, and it was just bone dry. It looked more like Arizona as opposed to Yorkshire. And we're seeing that being replicated, those kind of scenes being replicated in many parts of southern England. And of course, as you go across the Channel and into France, things are even worse. We're seeing major rivers practically running dry in many places. And of course, thrown into the mix is climate change, and it's a very, very gloomy picture overall. But I think, in my opinion anyway, it's a question of balance. It's a question of the broader picture, looking back at history and whatnot. And we have had severe drought situations in the past. Now, I'm not turning around and dismissing what's going on at the moment, but certainly we have seen situations before. Now, if temperatures exceeded 35 Celsius for a fourth straight day, that would be the first time since 1976, and it doesn't look as if we're going to see that taking place this time around. 34 yesterday, possibly 34 today. Then we'll jack the temperatures up to 35, 36, possibly 37 tomorrow afternoon as the temperatures peak. And then we are watching an area of low pressure, a rather innocuous looking mid and upper level feature, but that is going to then shift north. It's got the energy associated with it. As you see that incoming solar radiation, the temperatures really build through the course of the day. And then with that little bit of energy, that cooler air aloft moving over top of that hot, humid air, you then force the air to rise and produce showers and thunderstorms. Intense shower and thunderstorm activity will become more widespread through the second half of the weekend and into next week. And then we get a more developed area of low pressure and cooler air coming in. So we do see a bit of a breakdown in sight, which is good, of course, and we will watch this space in terms of the temperatures dropping. So temperatures yesterday, like I say, peaked at 34. We're going to see either 34, if not 35, through the course of this afternoon, and probably peaking as I speak. Temperatures during the overnight period, another tropical night by the looks of it on the south coast of the Isle of Wight. We've seen St Catherine's at 20.6 Celsius, and we may have seen a few other spots along that south coast fail to drop below 20 Celsius, which marks a tropical night. And of course, these are the temperatures this afternoon. So we're seeing widespread temperatures into the low 30s, extending from anywhere across parts of Yorkshire all the way to the south coast, as you can see here. And then, like I say, temperatures are going to rise during the course of tomorrow here. So this is the setup. Area of low pressure over northern Spain. We've got an area of high pressure to the east over the continent. We're drawing our air in from the east southeast, from the hottest region of Europe. And if you notice here, the 850 temperatures, we've got this little tongue of extremely warm air extending from 5,000 feet all the way down to the surface. You can see here this little cool pool here off the Iberian coast. Plenty of warm air all the way up into the north of Scotland, as you can see here. As it plays through the next several days, we're going to see even warmer air at 5,000 feet move up across the southern half of the British Isles. Temperatures failing to drop potentially below 21 Celsius during the overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. And then, of course, you've got a higher base temperature to start the day with warmer air at 850. Pushing in, you've got the ingredients for the temperatures to climb 2, 3, 4 degrees warmer than what they were both yesterday and today. So we are going to see temperatures peak during the course of tomorrow. Another very warm day, may I add, on Sunday. But notice here that we are going to start to see those temperatures. Now you notice here, this is actually 1800 UTC on Sunday, and we've got a little pocket here of very warm air sitting almost bang slap over Birmingham here. So underneath that, the temperatures are going to be very warm indeed. But we are seeing subtle changes taking place. Notice here that we've not got those reddish colours over France. That is that area of low pressure. That is going to then start to push its way up into the southern half of the British Isles, and we are going to start to gradually cool the mid-levels of the atmosphere. But by cooling it means that the atmosphere becomes more buoyant, and therefore we start to develop showers and thunderstorms. All the while, as that area of low pressure lifts north, you pay attention to the colder air aloft getting dragged south over the Atlantic to the west of the UK and Ireland. And as that area of low pressure moves up into the UK, we're going to start to see this cooler air getting wrapped into that feature that develops here. So the clash between very warm air over the continent and that very chilly air aloft over the Atlantic, as that air starts to get wrapped around that circulation, actually develops a low. It becomes stronger and deeper. The atmosphere generally becomes a lot more unstable as we go from the weekend and into next week here. And then we eventually start to see the temperatures coming down. So instead of 36 tomorrow over and to the west of London, through the Cotswolds, through Oxfordshire, of course, up into the Midlands, we're going to start to see the temperatures coming down into the mid to low 20s during the course of next week here. So what a difference that is going to feel like for folks that are sweltering at the moment. And as I play through the loop, you see that colder air getting pushed into the British Isles. And this was marked last week. I was talking about the potential for heat building north out of Spain and France into the UK. Very hot conditions, a prolonged period of temperatures in excess of 30 Celsius. But remember, I showed you the Madden-Julian Oscillation shifting from a large-scale sinking over the Atlantic and over the northwest of Europe to upward motion. And this is representative of that shift in the Madden-Julian Oscillation. So the colder air comes down over the UK, as you can see here. So much fresher conditions. We can breathe a sigh of relief, I would say, over the UK. And then, of course, we see that push of warmer air coming back in off the Atlantic. So it's a back and forth swing in temperature. Fresher conditions during next week. Possibly towards next weekend, we see the temperatures coming back up once again. So it's a very, very back and forth pattern. Then we've got colder air coming in, as you can see, according to the GFS. Now let's have a look at the overview chart here, because you can see as we go back through the loop, that area of low pressure nudging its way in, it's kind of pulling in that very warm air at this moment in time. Then that feature moves in over the British Isles, starts to trigger showers and thunderstorms. Notice, especially across central and northern Scotland, parts of the Republic of Ireland, we're seeing those showers breaking out, and then eventually that area of low pressure starts to deepen. Notice here the pressure dropping, and then of course we're starting to see that northerly flow coming in during the early portion of next week, and showers become more widespread, I think, through the course of next week here. But it's just showers, it's not a prolonged spell of heavy rainfall. And of course, with dry, baked ground, almost like concrete in some of these parks and whatnot, when you get these downpours, that creates a lot of flooding conditions as well, because there's no absorption of the soil. It's baked, dry, it's hard. The rain has got nowhere to penetrate the soil, so it just kind of runs over the top, and that can create problems in itself, of course. Then through the course of next week, it looks as if we've got some higher pressure seen by the model here, but it's becoming a little bit more of a breakdown, if you will, in terms of the overall atmosphere. So here is hoping that we can get something. Certainly, if you look at the rainfall situation across not only the UK but across Europe itself, you can see here that as I play it through the loop, there is a little bit more optimism, I think, even across the driest parts of the British Isles, that we get at least some sort of rain over the next week or so here. And of course, previous runs were indicating not a drop of rain all the way through to the 20th and even the 22nd of July. Look at even France, we're starting to see a little bit of hope here that we're getting some sort of moisture coming in. As we play it right the way through the loop, there is a fair amount of rain being printed out by the GFS, as you can see here, and this is certainly welcome news. Quite often these prolonged periods of dry conditions can actually end quite abruptly, and the word drought actually kind of gets forgotten about pretty quickly. You can see these kind of snaps and patterns, so to speak. I'm not saying that that's going to happen over the next couple of weeks. It's not going to happen, but certainly it will be interesting to see what kind of autumn season that we get over the British Isles. We're certainly going to be keeping a close eye on that over the British Isles and here on the channel. Certainly looking at the bigger, broader picture, while you're seeing scenes, you may live in Cumbria, for example, parts of Lancashire, and it's actually not that bad. You're saying to yourself, what's all the fuss about? We're not, the ground's not baked dry. We don't have dried up rivers. In fact, the north of England is actually not looking too bad at all. It's actually once you get from the Midlands south and east, even southwest, the conditions are a lot more severe. You notice here in the last 3 months, the worst conditions have been generally across London up into East Anglia, and then of course as we look through the last 6 months and 12 months, this is a tweet here by Dave Throp, I think that's pronounced. I do apologise, Dave, if that's incorrect, but you can see certainly it has been a prolonged dry past 12 months, and it's all indicative of La Nina. I think the low solar situation as well has been a contributing factor to the longer term pattern. But it's going to be interesting as the La Nina potentially starts to weaken. We'll start to see the solar cycle climb and ascend out of that minimum towards the maximum, which will probably peak somewhere around 2025. So it's a long way off. But I think we will start to see this turnaround taking place in the overall and fairly long-term climate setup across the UK and across Europe overall. So a bleak picture at the moment. We do have some welcome relief coming, I think, for some places, but it comes at a cost, unfortunately. But we will keep an eye on this as we go forward. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be back for daily videos once again over the next couple of weeks. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Do drop a comment and like the video if you enjoyed today's content. Hope you have a great rest of your Friday. Bye for now.